Hey, what's up everybody? Which range is the best? I promise you that after this video you will know. This season there is a great balance between the range DPS classes, but of course there will always be a meta. In this video I'm going to cover most of the range DPS classes, their pros and cons, and of course how good they are in Mythic Plus. Which range DPS you should play? Let's find out. Let's start with Mage. Mage is definitely one of the best range DPS classes. Fire Mage is the best spec, but Frost and the Arcane is also viable. In my opinion, the best thing about Fire Mage is that it has a lot of defensive, which makes him really good on high Mythic Plus. You also have really good single target and AoE, but there is some other range specs that are better damage wise. I think that Mage is a safe pick for Mythic Plus. Mage learning curve is one of the hardest in my opinion, but if you put your time into it, Mage is one of the best spec for Mythic Plus. Balanced Druid. In this season, Balanced Druid is really strong. The higher the key level, the better balance will be, and especially on fortified weeks. The weakest point of Balanced Druid is his defense. You have only Bark Skin as a damage reduction CD, and going into Bear makes you lose a lot of damage. In high keys you are always at the risk of getting one shot, and the group should try and babysit you. Overall, balance is really fun, and with his high DPS it's a strong contender to be the best range DPS spec. Shadow Priest. After the recent changes, Shadow Priest is once again at the top of the range DPS classes. Similar to Balanced Druid, they shine on higher keys and especially on fortified. On the defensive side, they are really strong, and on top of that, Priests bring Power Infusion to increase the group DPS and Mind Suit for some easy skips. Honestly, there is no real downside to play Shadow Priest right now, and it's definitely one of the best range DPS specs. Let's talk about Evokers and start with Augmentation Evokers. Personally, I don't like playing with them, but the spec is strong in the right hands. If you know how to play this spec, you can contribute a lot of damage and defensive to the group. The spec itself is lacking defense wise, and on high keys they should rotate defensive CDs and group CDs correctly to survive. The spec is strong, and if you like the support spec, this spec is definitely for you. If you don't like Aug Evokers, but you still want to play Evoker, you can play Devastation. The spec is good and has a lot of burst damage. Defensive wise, you have the same problem and you are a bit squishy. Overall, Augmentation is the better spec between the two, so Augmentation is definitely an A tier. If you like Hunter, you can choose between Beast Mastery or Marksmanship. Beast Mastery is the better spec, no doubt. Damage wise, Beast Mastery is one of the best range DPS specs, but similar to other specs, their problem is on the defensive sides. The class is squishy and there's hard time survive in some dungeons. If Hunter is something that you want to play, Beast Mastery is the spec. Overall, the spec is good, but there is some specs that are better, and sadly for Hunter players, it's a B tier. Elemental Shaman. Sadly, there isn't a lot to say about the spec. It's between C to B tier at best. Damage wise, they can deal a lot of damage, but cannot really compete with the top specs. Defensive wise, the spec is struggling and don't contribute a lot to the group besides lust. You still can play this spec at a reasonable level, but it's definitely not a meta pick. Last but definitely not least is Warlock. Warlock is really strong and it has two really good specs, Demo and Destro. The big difference between the two specs is that Destro needs big pulls to really shine. Don't get me wrong, Destro can do a lot of damage even with reasonable pulls, but Demo will do better just because it has better damage profile with most fog groups. Warlock is one of the tankiest class, and both Demo and Destro can do high keys and bring good defense and offense. As you can see, I didn't put any class on S tier. The balance between the range DPS is really good this season, and I don't believe that there is one spec that is seriously better than the rest. All of the A classes are good and viable till 28-29 keys, so you can pick any one of them. If you don't care about pushing high keys and you play for fun, you can pick any range spec and you will do just fine. If you like this content, make sure to like and subscribe. It means nothing to you, but it means a lot to me. If you have any questions, feel free to ask in the comments. Thank you for watching, I really appreciate it. Peace.